Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Me and MS. My name is Michael. This week we're doing things a little differently. Rather than just me talking at you, it's going to be me talking with my good friend John Katz. John is from New York City and lives there now, having moved back a couple years ago after living in New Orleans for a decade, where I met him while attending Tulane too long ago. Yeah, he's a thinking man with a lot to say about the foodways of our time. Plus, he has impeccable taste in literature and movies, and he holds MF Doom in high regard. For the last year or so, John has been making some big lifestyle changes, not liking where he was in the world after a failed relationship a couple years ago. He chose to really focus on himself, becoming a new version of himself. He really cut out the vices in life and focus on creating a mindset of positivity and drive to his world. I've enjoyed and been inspired from watching his transformation, and I thought it would be great to catch up with him on the channel. His programs may be intense in practice, but at the core is a focus on positivity to prepare for what may come your way, and really getting into that right mindset. So I thought that was really relevant to all of our fight with MS, and I especially wanted to talk about two topics with him and how they relate to both of our lives: resiliency and evolution. I feel like both topics need to be kept in your mind, in your own battle with MS and whatever else you may be facing in your life. Being resilient against the stressors, all the while staying open and accepting of your own evolution, or hopefully driving your own necessary evolution if need be. For more on John, check the link in the description of where you can find more. He has a weekly YouTube series called NYC Foodways. At first, NYC Foodways was his way of focusing himself on a new project and sharing with the world a new creative project. And his level of expertise in truly neighborhood and overlooked, underappreciated foodways in New York City, sharing all that. But it's evolved to feature more aspects of his personality and interests, and soliloquies and discussion intended to help folks get through what they may be facing. So enjoy this, and thanks for watching. And special thanks to John for taking part in the conversation. It was a lot of fun making it. Thanks. Hey John, thanks for agreeing to talk to me. How you doing?
I'm good, and hello everyone. It's nice to see you all, and Mike, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah. If you can just give a little background on your story and your journey, how you are living your life now, and why talking together might be kind of relevant to the conversation.
Absolutely. So, for pretty much my entire life, I was caught up in the normal circumstances and activities that most people find themselves in. They walk a path that's been tread by millions or billions before them, the path of self involvement, the path of the pursuit of pleasure, these momentary exercises in what I view as kind of nihilistic behavior. This is going out, this is using substances, this is essentially acting as we please in order to please ourselves with very little regard for the well being of others. And I was walking this path to a pretty extreme degree. I always say I never considered myself an addict in the clinical sense, but I certainly exhibited similar behaviors that an addict would, which is, um, using substances, using items, using people to further my own ends, to further what I thought as my own well-being. But obviously, it was quite the opposite, and things kind of reached a turning point at the dissolution of my last relationship. This was just about 2 years ago. To this day. And following the dissolution of the relationship, I entered in a very, very dark period, an extremely dark period in which I was doing all of the former nihilistic behaviors I had engaged in, just to a much greater degree. And this put me in a terrible place, a place I now can see a lot of people that I cross paths with are in. Um, and this place drove me to have some extremely negative thoughts about myself. I was engaging in all these behaviors that I wanted to do, but didn't really want to do them. Nobody really wants to be doing the things that they're doing when they're harming themselves and others. And as I perpetuated this cycle that I had been a part of before my relationship ended, but I had sort of hyper magnified it and was engaging these behaviors more and more and more, I sent myself to the precipice of self destruction. And at the precipice, I realized that I did want to continue to live. I did want it to continue to exist on this plane. I didn't want to throw myself over the abyss. And I reached out to someone I had found online whose philosophy really spoke to me. This is a man who did a 10-year prison sentence in the California penitentiary system, the most extreme carceral system in the US. And while incarcerated, he developed this program of personal development that allowed him to survive, literally to survive, to live in hell. And in living in hell and being this positive example for the people around him, he was actually able to help drug addicts and murderers and real serious criminals, people in far worse internal states and external states that I was in, turn their lives around. So, in being able to help these broken men turn their lives around, when he got back into the so-called free world, he developed this program for folks in my shoes, folks that had put sort of themselves in the same negative internal states that the carceral system had put his fellow inmates. And after interfacing with this man, his name is Wes Watson, I engaged in this program of personal development, and it turned everything around. Every aspect of my being was inverted, has been inverted, and has been converted into a force for good. So all the things that I was engaged in negatively, I have now flipped and engaged in positively in every way. And we can get into the specifics of that in greater detail. But the fundamental premise of this program is strengthening of one's mindset. And I mentioned this in my channel before, but the mindset is the filter through which all external stimulus are passed. So all of our experiences, all of our thoughts, everything that is in front of us that we can see with our eyes, which we can feel with our heart, which we can sense with our spirit and our soul, all of that is passed through our mindset. And if you have a strong mindset, you are able to take all of those stimuli, whether they be what a normal person would consider to be good or bad, and convert it into something positive, even if the positive or the benefit is understanding how to grapple with negativity. So something overtly negative enters your life, a breakup, the loss of something, the loss of someone. A mindset will allow you to say, okay, this is unfortunate, and I'm going to learn, if nothing else, how to instruct other people to get through this blandly or baldly negative thing. And what really, I believe, connected you and I through this mindset training was the loss of my home. It's not a loss, and nothing is mine. Nothing is any of ours, really, for any appreciable amount of time. Due to some unfortunate negligence on my part, my home was lost in a fire 2 months and 2 weeks ago, I believe, to the day. And I had a couple hours of negative internal state, after which I reverted back to state of positivity and abundance due to mindset training. And this would not have been possible were I not training my mindset daily to accept everything that passed through my mind's eye as something to be learned from, something, if not necessarily obviously positive, then at least beneficial in experiencing it. And the morning after the fire, my typical wake up time is 4 a.m. I actually pushed it back. So I showed the universe more gratitude for the fact that I was still living by waking up at 2:45. I showed the universe the same amount of gratitude by continuing to engage in a program of intense physical exercise. I did not run to the vices that I used to when things got tough. So before I removed all the negative substances, I would look towards certain illicit and legal drugs to feel better. Look to certain substances like food and alcohol to feel better. And this is what a lot of people do when they get stressed. Their stress tolerance is low. They have a weak mindset. Something so-called negative occurs, and they run straight back to the thing that put them in the negative mindset to begin with. So after I lost my house in a fire, I continued my program of personal development. In fact, I increased the so-called adversity that this program preaches. And on the flip side, I've learned a massive amount about myself and the universe and our role in it just from this so-called negative thing that occurred. And
Yeah,
that's a Yeah, that's a bit of background on myself, and I'll pass the mic back to you.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say just the mindset of that being faced with adversity. You know, my adversity is different, and um, I and everyone with MS's adversity is different, even from MS patient to different MS patient. But the right mindset to get through adversity, I have just been thinking a lot about, and why I especially wanted to talk to you about this, and share this type of connection of the mindset, and but especially kind of, I don't know, just how you with the fire and everything else, and what you've been sticking with. It's just, I've been impressed with seeing your resiliency to just stick with everything and keep bettering yourself. And I guess, like, um, what does that word mean to you, and how you approach your goals, and you know yeah, and how did you stay resilient, especially like after the fire may have posed a potential to set you off from the work you had done, and keeping yourself, your mindset in the positive kind of mindset to deal with everything.
Resiliency is the key word. It's the most important thing. One is resilient in and of themselves, in the way that they structure their life, in the way that they perceive the world, and the way they interact with the world and everyone in it. One can be resilient against whatever comes their way. I look at your situation and I see someone that is far more resilient than the vast majority of people that I interact with, even folks that are on my program. I've known you for years, almost decades, I would say,
Yeah.
and I've never ever seen you throw a pity party for yourself. I've never seen you uh, emit low energy around the situation that you are in, a situation that I should say you did not choose, whereas the negative situation that everyone in the so called free world chooses is of their own doing. So folks are effing their lives up with drugs and alcohol and negative thoughts and using of others, and then they are curious as to why they feel bad, or someone in your shoes did not elect to be in the situation you're in, and yet shows resilience through this when you have every right to be whining and crying and emitting all this low energy. So resilience to me is essentially accepting everything as a given and moving forward by moving through it. You're not looking really to one does not look to move around the obstacle. One does not look for a shortcut. One does not look for a way out. One does not look for a bargain basement discount. One looks at the problem in front of them and moves through it by adhering to habits that strengthen them, habits around discipline, habits around showing up in a sustained manner, habits around keeping your word. If you are keeping your word to yourself, you'll be able to be resilient in the face of any obstacle. And that's what resilience means to me. It's consistency, it's discipline, it's honesty, it's being abundant, it's being loving. These things are very, very difficult. It's so much easier to be, and I have to keep doing the scare quotes just because so many words that we use in typical vernacular speech are actually represent the opposite of what they are. It's not easy at all to be I'm going to I'm going to refrain from swearing here. It's not easy really to be low energy. It's actually quite difficult. It creates difficulty, but it feels easy in the moment to do it. So we have a responsibility to be resilient against our own lower nature by not abusing others, by not abusing substances, by not going low energy, by not throwing pity parties, by not making our so-called suffering or our so-called pain the centerpiece of who we are. It's part of who we are. It's obviously part of you, who you are. And I am in awe. I think I may have even mentioned this on one of my early comments, that you have the world to teach about positive mindset. You really do. It's remarkable. And I definitely draw inspiration from the energy you emit around your so-called negative situation, and folks just don't understand. I think people that have not experienced negativity in their life, whether it be self-imposed, an internal state of negativity, or something external that has been imposed upon them, they can't really understand how to be resilient because they never had to be. They've lived kind of
Right.
this nonsense easy life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's really, it having something adverse thrown to you shows, I mean, just fight or flight, that's that concept of, I guess, how I deal with adversity. For me, a lot of like things that come up, like not just the fact that I've had MS for almost 20 years is, which is, the underlying thing, but within that there's a lot of adversity of having to deal with like doctors to support you and do like their paperwork on time and move things along, and it's a lot of roadblocks with that of someone not having sent something like 2 weeks later you tried to do all this. And I mean, just personally, I'm just like, yes, I'll take a minute to feel very frustrated, kind of step back, like watch TV, whatever, and just kind of and chill. But that's not going to change how what happened and how I need to react to it. That's why, like with the fire, your original posts were very emotional, understandably, because you had this big thing happen to you. But yes, I was, impressed or in awe that you did fairly quickly. You took a step back, you thought about it. This is the situation. How am I going to deal with it? And it's a lot. The positivity. I mean, just keeping a positive mindset is key to everything. You're not. It did not defeat you. MS cannot defeat people. You may have bad days, you may have a big roadblock thrown at you, but it just there's no the alternative to the mindset is not good for your health or whatever the adversity may be, and just I don't know, fighting through, taking it as a new task. That it is unfortunate to if it throws you off, but I mean that happens in every aspect. That's life. Something new comes up, and keeping that mindset of sticking with your own program and you're looking for a positive outcome is incredibly important. I found there.
Absolutely. And the external things we are literally, that is why it's external, we are not in control of. We can only control our internal state through our actions and our thoughts and our energy. So, what a big problem that a lot of people have, and that I used to have terribly, is I would be so caught up in the negative external things that were thrown my way that I was totally at a loss to try to control my internal state. Now I've done the opposite. Now all I'm focused on is controlling my internal state, and come what may. And interestingly, a massive amount of positive external changes have fallen into my lap since I have engaged in this program of personal development and internal state control. And I mean projects in for positivity in all senses. I have become less attached to the material world, while at the same time reaping the benefits of the material world now. The fire aside, if we're speaking on certain tangible things and stupid societally generated things like jobs and work and money and all that stuff, I should say that that has been a massive improvement in my life. I don't put a lot of effort there, or I don't put a lot of my own internal value on that. But that's kind of the way this exchange works. If we focus on our internal state, our internal growth, being a positive example, being loving, warm, and abundant, then all of this external stuff, the stuff that we thought we wanted before, the stuff we thought we craved before, things from the world, um, kind of fall into our lap.
Yeah.
Then other things fall into our lap as well, like house fires, like I mean, what you just described is having this physical condition and having to jump through medical hoops, and the doctor not filing the paperwork, and already having to. I know that you're on a pretty intense program. Everyone is, whether my program or your program, we're all on a heavy program, to try to be better, and then to have to jump through that. I mean, one could so easily just say, "Forget this. I'm done. I'm not dealing with this." But you haven't backed down. We haven't backed down, and that's the biggest thing. We control our internal state by not backing down and being able to navigate the external world, because the tests are not going to stop.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I think going off of resiliency, when I came up with what I wanted to talk about here, I kept thinking about the concept of evolution, because and what its relationship with resiliency is, because you have been resilient in keeping with the program you set for yourself, but and you're, but it's also based on an evolution in your personal, in your personal being. And I'm just kind of, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on how those two concepts can play together, but it's also evolution is kind of like, your resiliency can evolve too. You're a much different man than you were even, 2 years ago, maybe even since July. Maybe because even when you started the foodways concept, you've kind of evolved that, but you're still resilient in the fact of what your overall goals are of positivity. Do you have any thoughts on how those two concepts kind of interplay, resiliency but also evolving but staying resilient to your core concepts?
100%. I think the two are inextricably linked. I think one's resiliency and one's evolution are parallel paths. So, in developing the food waste project, I was both developing the project and my ability to adhere to it. And that ability or inability to adhere to it is in line with my ability to evolve. So if you track the narrative of the project, it started out in a very, very prescribed manner that was pretty rigid in its construction, in terms of the posting cadence, the topic matter, the research, and whatnot. And as it's evolved and expanded, it's become not quite kaleidoscopic, but the evolution of it has been, well, I urge everyone watching this to go check it out. But I do think the two are evolved. When we evolve our ability to be resilient, our resiliency allows us to evolve further. The two are in yeah, they're in tandem. They're in proportionate. What is the word here? They develop proportionately, right? So
Yes, for
as
sure.
as one evolves their vision, their creative vision, and I view your this project that we're on right now as part of your creative vision. It also requires a great amount of resilience. Every week that we push forward on developing our vision, there creates a number of opportunities for the vision to be derailed. And we'll save another episode for me to talk about the various tests that have faced me. But I'll just share a couple right now. I've had my phone shut down due to overheating, due to being frozen, due to running out of memory. There have been technical issues. There have been all these things that they don't really matter to me at all. They don't hold me back at all. But it had required an evolution in resiliency in order to move past these mundane, silly tech issues, and also all the other myriad issues that could befall any creative project. And yeah, so I think that's a really great point. I think that's super valid, that resilience and evolution are they kind of move hand in hand as we evolve as people. We have to become more resilient, or that lack of resiliency will stem our evolution.
For sure. Yeah, I think coming with that code that's going to underlie how you respond to evolution, whether you uh, self self created and positive evolution, or less outside influence, less positive evolution is key. I'm just thinking MS. It's an evolving disease, and my ability has evolved, and there's plenty of days where something I'm grasping with the reality that I have a new reality. But I think just the resiliency you have to show, and you have to keep, yeah, under everything, is you come with this code to stay resilient, to which and it will help you address this evolution, the positive and the negative evolution, to be the best you can be. I don't know if that really makes sense, kind of throwing off the top of my head here. So but yeah,
It
it's
makes it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I'm guessing that you take medication. You run your program every day, right? This is
yeah.
something you do every day.
Hmm.
I run my program every day. And this is one of the many things that links us and links other people with positive mindsets, no matter what the circumstances. It has to be done every day, or else the entire structure begins to falter. That is such a massively important thing for folks to understand, that the programs that you and I are on, and other successful mindset wise, successful people are on, requires constant and consistent engagement. There has to be a disciplined, structured daily format that is interacted with, because we live every day as a day. Folks are caught up in the work week and weekend. Folks are caught up in the this thing and then the vacation. They're caught up in the club and then the real world. I used to be caught up in Burning Man and what they called the default world. So, word to the wise: if you go to Burning Man, a lot of people put an equal weight, or actually a greater weight, on the 1 week they spend at Burning Man than the other 51 weeks they spend in what they call the default world. So they've created this alternate reality that has a preponderance, like a greater importance than the other 51 weeks out of the year. And as I've evolved, I think this is incredibly twisted. We live our program every day so that every day our program allows us to live. And this is such an important thing for folks to understand and acknowledge, that resilience is lived daily, or it is not lived at all. Evolution is a process that we must move forward on, or it will move backwards on us. And if you don't understand the importance of that, it's probably a great place for you to start. Start daily. I do this every day because I know how painful it is not to. And Mike, I can speak for you. You run your program every day, and I bet you'd be in a lot more pain if you didn't. Am I right?
Yes, and I mean, well, I will say I have a general structure, but I can always do better to keep within that structure. It's what's tough, at least in my world, and I think a lot of MSers world at least, is that not you. It's too general to say every day is different, but there literally are days where I'm like, the other day I was super stressed about, there was a medical appointment I had, and just I'm 6 months away, 6 weeks away from my new medication. I kind of just start feeling bad, and it was humid and it's just off. But I feel like a lot better since 2 days from now, or since 2 days ago. But so it's like, but I see what you're saying. The daily structure is important, and it's something that I know I want to get to as much as I can, because I know it will help me. It's getting that. It's all I need, a little bit more of an evolution in my mindset of keeping with the structure. Allow for me at least, allow yourself some grace, but don't make that like an excuse to veer off this positive structure. So it's
100%. No, I hear what you're saying, and to be clear, I'm also evolving. I mean, you mentioned 2 years or 2 months ago. I feel like a different. I am a different man now than I was 2 weeks ago. That's the level of evolution, because I've cleared out so much of all the negativity from my life. The only thing left really is positive growth, and that includes tweaking and improving on my daily structure. Now that I don't live where I used to live, and I'm living with, with other stakeholders, I've had to evolve that structure as well. And yeah, it's constant evolution. I mean, progression is life, right? This is we are If we are choosing to progress, then we are choosing to live, and if we're choosing to regress, well, then we're harming our life and the lives of others. So I'm nowhere near perfect in my daily structure, but I have gotten to a point that my daily structure allows for growth. That's the unique thing about it. I've set the structure up not because the structure is perfect, but because the structure allows for progression. And
sure.
starts with an extremely early wake up. I'm at 4 a.m. now. It starts with dialed in workouts and the ingestion of food that builds me, macronutrients and whatnot. And this is the program that I live. This is the program that I've lived for almost 2 years. And now, with the coaching module that I've launched, this is the program that I teach. So folks are coming to me to get the same wisdom and understanding that I got to turn my life around, so they can turn their life around, so they can be positive examples to people and around them. I mean, I was a horrible example to everyone I interacted with. I was extremely negative. I was extremely shallow. And that was just a reflection of the way I felt, which is a reflection of the way I looked, which is a reflection of the way I acted. So now I act differently. So I feel differently. So I look differently. And people are coming to me, seeking the same change. And I owe nothing more than, I owe nothing to the world more than to help other men and women, if they're interested, make the same changes I did. And it's based on love and abundance. And it starts with a daily structure. It starts with building resilience, and it starts with evolving towards a more fully realized spiritual being that is just giving and abundant and present. And that's what I aim to do. And in you, I see someone that is present. You've never not been there for me in whatever way I needed. Any sort of outreach, always very responsive, and just always very caring and loving and abundant. And Yeah, you've got a great mindset, man. You really do. You have the world to teach. I said it on IG and I'll say it here. You have the world to teach about positivity. I mean that.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm trying to at least get something started here with me and MS, and I really thank you for taking the time to talk today. I always just love talking and love getting cerebral with you, and on all sorts of things. So, uh, all the best in your journey, and thanks for joining us.
Much love, Mike. It was a pleasure. Take it easy. We'll be in
Right.
touch soon.
Later.